Prior to the pandemic, a bonding bill with financing for state building projects was supposed to be the centerpiece of the 2020 legislative session. Instead, it took 5 special sessions before the bill was passed, and it became more than a bonding bill. Right now, this bonding bill that was passed today by the Senate includes almost $1.5 billion for building projects, $700 million for transportation, and $300 million for better water resources. It was initially resisted by Senate and House Republicans because it will add to the state's growing budget deficit. But they ultimately agreed to a bill that will create construction jobs and provide some tax relief. Earlier today, I spoke with Minnesota Senator Carla Nelson right after the Senate passed the bill. Senator Carla Nelson from Rochester joining me from the Capitol, and the bill has passed. So that is good news for a lot of projects and for people who really wanted to see this bonding bill passed. Carla.
Yes, my heart is still beating fast. I am just so glad that we got this bill passed. Clearly a strong bipartisan bill coming out of the Minnesota State Senate is a good sign. Many of us were looking for this bill months earlier. They just could not get it out of the House. Of course, it came over to the Senate late last night, and we did pass it now 64-3. About $1 billion of this bill is infrastructure. It's roads, bridges, clean water, things that protecting the buildings that the taxpayers already own, so they don't deteriorate. So it's protecting those state resources as well. Then in addition, there is the tax provision for Section 179 conformity with the federal tax law. That is an incredibly important provision. It's something that I've worked on actually since I got here as a freshman. What it does is it empowers our farmers and our businesses to expand and grow. Then, of course, it's a jobs bill. Let's get people building. Let's get Minnesotans building. And that is, again, part of this bonding bill. It includes things, getting our engineers and our trades to work. Some of the things that are so important to constituents in our area, number one, the Rochester Airport. As you know, the runway 2 had reached the end of its useful life. And that airport is an economic engine, not just for Olmsted County, but really all across the southern tier of the state. So I'm glad the Rochester Airport project passed. That is one of the provisions that I led. And then also, residents will be glad to know that Cascade Park received funding as well, about $2.5 million. And then, of course, there are things like safety things, like Highway 14 and County Road 104, right outside of Byron there. We've had, as you know, way too many fatalities there, and it's just a poorly designed intersection. And of course, there's things like the Chatfield Center for the Arts. I'm very glad to see that project continue. There's money for BDPI grants, which helps businesses like businesses in EOTA start up with new business development grants. And so it's a good bill. Now, the reason some people don't like it is because the process, and I have to agree, the process is abysmal. It was abhorrent. I can't even begin to think about the process. It's terrible.
Well, the beauty of it is, though, that the process is now over. And the political gaming or posturing is done, and this bill did pass. But Senator Nelson, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this. With COVID, one, there's a silver lining because, like you said, the tax relief part that you had worked on for years finally went through, and our farmers will benefit and small businesses. But I also have to ask you about some of the things in this bonding bill that others are criticizing, saying we are in a deficit and shouldn't be spending on nature center or safety, yes, roads and bridges, yes, but theaters and other things that maybe didn't need to get included.
Yes, well, I think that's a reasonable concern. I think all of us are very concerned about the budget forecast going forward. I will say the most recent news is that our revenues into the state have actually increased over the May projections by about 12%. So we are glad to see that, but we don't know what the ultimate budget forecast is going to look like. We'll get a peek in December and then the final budget forecast in February as we develop our next 2-year biennial budget. And I believe, for the most part, now there is no perfect bill. You have to understand that, especially when you have divided government, which actually I prefer divided government. It provides checks and balances. It makes it hard, but I think you get better outcomes. And so it's not a perfect bill. I know you could probably pick out projects that you think, oh, there could be a better time for this or that. But again, these are compromise bills. Bonding bills are compromise bills. You have to get enough votes to get the bill passed. And I believe the things that are in this bill are things that are not only about safety, which is a big part of it, and about protecting clean air and water and our infrastructure, which is responsibility as well. I believe that the major pieces in this bill are economic drivers. So they are things that are going to help us build out of this economic slump.